guys for attending the session, the second one. I'll just give you a quick recap of what we did in the last one and basically take it from there. In our last session, we covered basically the different sections of the dashboard that involves data and insights, campaign manager, a little bit of segmentation, how to read a user profile, how data is passed on to WebEngage, and also the personalization and the settings part of it. In today's session, we will majorly be completing the journeys part that was left from our last session, and also look at each and every feature under analytics. This will basically give you an idea on how to slice and dice data and how to use guys, can everyone just stay on mute while I go ahead? And just one more thing, guys. Let's save the questions for the end of the session today. All right. I will just get started with the journey section of the dashboard. And I'll give you a quick walkthrough of the different parts of the settings and how you can make a journey. The use case part of it, we will be covering in a detailed manner across industry specifics later. All right. So if I'm looking at journeys in terms of creation, there are 4 major things that we need to focus on. One is triggers. The next is the actions. Then there are conditions. Then there's flow control. And after that, you also have the adding the option of exit trigger, conversion tracking, and frequency capping. Basically, triggers are necessary for any journey to begin. If you do not put a trigger, you will not be able to publish the journey. Now, what is a trigger? Trigger is how you define the entry point of a user into your journey. As the name suggests, the first one is occurrence of an event. What this basically means is whenever a user does a particular event that you configure, let's say, for example, add to cart, he will be eligible to enter the journey. Just note that once you publish the journey from here, whoever does add to cart after you publish the journey will enter the journey. All the previous users will not be entering this journey if you use this particular trigger. The second one is entry and exit to a particular segment. What this basically says is if you have already created preloaded segments, that would be available in the drop-down below. And then you have the option to choose to get the users into the journey if they enter this or is already in the segment or exits. So all of these 4 options can be used differently depending on your use case. As I said, you can select your segments once they are populated after you create them. That's the second way that you can get users into the journey. The third way to trigger users into the journey is basically using the change in user attribute. As we had discussed in our last session, there are multiple ways that we can pass user attributes, right? To basically segment and target users based on their actions. Let's say, for example, if we want to target people whose average order size has increased, then do that as well. So there's the option of any change or specific change. So if it's specific, like say, for example, if I want to target users when their average order size is increased, then what I can do is new is greater than the old value. It's a very simple way to go about it. So you can put a particular value as well. And you can also add multiple conditions here. The fourth way is by using specific triggering CSV lists. So at the end of the day, you also have the option to upload a CSV list directly, or you can also copy paste the list of users in this particular board. The fifth one is basically geofencing. Now, this would be relevant for food delivery businesses or even, let's say, ride-hailing businesses. For example, if we want to target users based on their entry into a particular geofence, you can do that as well. So you can just search for a particular location. And just give me a second. So once that location comes in, what you can do is decide the radius that you want to target it on, and then just click on save. Now, this can be either for entry or exit to a particular geofence. These are the 2 options available. These are the 5 triggers that we have basically to get users into the journey. As I said in the beginning, if you have to publish a journey, then you will have to have one of these triggers definitely configured. If not, it will not allow you to publish. It will just throw an error and ask you to set the trigger for it. The next part of it is actions. Now, these are where all the campaigns that you configure can be configured from. So if I'm looking at it, you can set up your email campaign, SMS campaign, push, in-app, on-site, inline content as well, which is with web personalization. Then you can also trigger WhatsApp messages, web push messages. If you have a specific requirement of calling an API in a journey, let's say, for example, if you want to have like dynamic coupon codes and we need to get it from your system, then we can use call an API block here. The next part is conditions. Now, these conditions help us to ensure how the users can be controlled in the way they pass through the journey at the end of the day. Let's say, for example, if we want to target users who have added to cart at the end of the day, right? We also need to ensure that they haven't done a checkout completed after that. So what you can probably do is you can check with is in segment and basically create a list of users who have already done checkout completed. Or also you can do has done event and put checkout completed there as well. You can also check for user attribute and also check if a user is reachable on a particular channel. Say, for example, if you want to configure a journey for only push users, you can do that as well. All you have to do is make sure that check if the user is reachable on push, and then go ahead with the action and send them the push campaign directly. You also have a few options in terms of flow control. Now, flow control, like I said, with conditions is a way to ensure users can move from one block to another, depending on the use case that you have at hand. You can also discuss with your CSMs here on what is the best approach. The different flow control options are basically wait for a particular time. If you want to say a user receives your message through a journey, then you want to wait for a couple of days before you go ahead. You can do that as well using wait for some time. Then you can also limit the flow of users based on their time slots. So you can choose when you want to get users from in the journey and when you want to keep them in a certain block. So for example, here, if you say you want to send from weekdays from 10 a.m. to 5 p.m., then the user will be there in this slot at that point. And then once that time slot is elapsed, it will go ahead to the next one. The next part is wait for an event block. As I said, right? If it's add to cart, if you want the user to check out at the end of the day, what would you do? You would basically say wait for event checkout completed, and that will ensure that if a user once the user receives a message, we are not going to send him any further messages. We are not even getting the user to the next block. We are waiting for the user to do this particular action from the message for up to the timeline that you define. Now, this could be hours, minutes, weeks, months, or years, depending on your use case again. Then you've also got wait for a particular date that you can do. Another new option that we've added is splitting the journeys. So as you are already aware, we've got A/B testing at a campaign level. Now, what we also have is A/B testing at a journey level. So basically, if I put this as an option, what happens is after this, it will split users into multiple branches. Now you can select the percentage that each branch should receive. Say, for example, if you want to say for you want 80% of your users to see your first message, go through the first path and 20 to go through the next path, you can do that as well. All you need to do is set your percentage, and you can also add multiple branches if it's necessary. And you can click on save at the end of the day. After this, you've got end journey. End journey is basically once the user has done an action, we are probably getting him out of the journey. This can also be used, let's say, for example, you've sent 3 messages to the user, but he's still not done your intended action. You would want to exit him from the journey, right? So what you can do is put an end journey block at that point. The remaining parts are exit trigger, conversion tracking, and frequency capping. Exit trigger is basically defining when I should define that a user should get out of the journey. For example, I'll just use the same add to cart example. Now, when I get users into the journey on the basis of their add to cart event, I also need to exit them once they do the necessary action, that is checkout completed, right? This can be done by setting up an exit trigger, and you can put checkout completed there. Now, once that is done, you also want to measure the efficacy of your journey, right? So what you can do is you can set up conversion tracking. You can select the conversion event that you want, the deadline that you're looking for. The deadline basically says from the time a user receives a message up to how many days will I consider this as a conversion from this particular journey. Mhm. As I had mentioned in the campaign level, you can also put control group and basically track the effectiveness of the journey. You have the option to toggle this and split the messages as per your requirements. Mhm. The final part is frequency capping. Whatever frequency capping that you set here can overrule whatever is set at an account level as well. So as I had covered in the campaign level, it's pretty much similar to that itself. So yeah, that's basically in terms of journeys. Mhm. We will be covering a detailed session with use cases as well. I think Nitya will be organizing that going forward. Mhm. Yeah, without further ado, I'll move into the analytics section of the dashboard. Mhm. The analytics section is split into 6 different parts. One is events, one is paths, then we've got RFM, we've got funnels, cohorts, uninstalls, and live. Mhm. I will start with the event section. So the event section allows you to basically look at all the custom events or all the system events that you have configured. Mhm. So these are all the events that could be found in the dashboard, and we've got a timeline of the last 7 days here. You also have the option to go with last 30 days, 90 days, or even custom dates. These dates can extend up to last year as well. Mhm. Yeah, so the for the ease of data, I'll just put it 30 days. So it's something that's populated as well. Mhm. What once you click on the timeline, you've got 3 options. One is show based on occurrences or uniques. Now, what is a unique? Any user is identified uniquely. So at the end of the day, if I am a user, it's going to be under unique. Occurrences could be multiple times, multiple actions done by the same user. For example, I as a user have come onto your website or app and has added the product to cart. Mhm. After 2 days, I come and add another product to cart. Now, in that case, my occurrences will be 2, but in uniques, I will be shown as an individual user only. Mhm. Now you can also split it out across a particular event rather than all your custom events. Say, for example, you want to look at all the users who have done added to basket, and you can split it again over different dimensions. That could be days, weeks, month. You also have hours of the day, days of the week, and months of the year. You can also split in location and also as per technology. Mhm. I'll just create a simple one so it's easy for the view. Mhm. So if you look at this, how many users have actually added an item to cart in the last 30 days? Mhm. So as the line graph says, you can see that on a day-to-day level, this data is populated, and you can see how many unique users have added to cart. Now, let me just make it occurrences as well. As you can see, occurrences are much higher than uniques because at the end of the day, the same users might be doing multiple actions. Mhm. Uh, Now you can split it over platform as well, just to give you an idea which platform, maybe Android or iOS, is actually giving you more added to carts. Mhm. Okay, we will just look at some other dimension as well. Let's say, for example, city. Mhm. So you can see what are the different cities that are actually giving you conversions. Since this is a test dashboard, you can ignore the different places here. Mhm. As in the users section, you also have the option to download this report directly. It can either be a line, bar, or table. If you download, you will be getting this information in your email ID directly. Mhm. Yeah, that's basically it. You can also pin it on your custom dashboards. Mhm. So that's basically in terms of event section of the analytics part. Mhm. Moving on, let's look at paths. Mhm. So what are paths at the end of the day? As the name suggests, what paths basically helps marketers do is see the route that the user has taken to complete a particular action. Mhm. Let's say, for example, from an e-commerce perspective, you want to see how many users have done a product view and then gone ahead to add to cart and then probably a checkout completed. For a food tech business, it could be something about how many people have viewed a restaurant, how many people have actually gone ahead and done particular actions, and then either gone to the restaurant or bought food from it, right? Mhm. So, so at the end of the day, well, for paths, right? What you need to have is an anchor event. Now, what is an anchor event? It is the first event that you want to basically look at. Your paths start from this, or it could end with this. So this would be your basic anchor, and everything else would be around this particular event. Mhm. The next section is the look ahead window. So this basically say, if I define this as 4 hours, what I'm saying is between two consecutive actions in the path, this is the time gap I'm going to keep. So if I put look ahead in window as 4, it means, let's say, for example, view restaurant is a first event. And the second event is event 2. I will be waiting for up to 4 hours for the time between event 1 and event 2. Then we've got split. As split is the same across the dashboard, it's basically to see the split across your location, country, or even platform or SDK version, or basically anything and everything that you want to look at. You've also got custom versus system events here. The next part is exclude these events. If you select a particular event, then it would be excluded from your path. If you want to include only certain events, that can also be done. The last part of it is collapse the repeated events. Now, what does this do? I will explain once I show you a definition of a path. So once you configure this, right, this is what the path would look like at the end of the day. So what am I doing here? I have said, show me a path with starting with a screen view restaurant. That's all. So what this path essentially tells me at the end of the day is okay, moving ahead. So what this path essentially tells you, right? The user, there are this many users who have viewed a particular restaurant. Now, after viewing this particular restaurant, what is the next action that a user does? So some of them have gone to start search. Some of them have gone to discovery and deliver. Some of them have opened details. Some of them have gone to restaurant menu. Some of them have gone to restaurant photos, and there is a section called others. Others is basically all the small events that have been grouped together. So all the events that have occurred like multiple times are probably of a less frequent manner, but it still occurred. That is what others looks like. So your ideal path may be to for the user to either look at the restaurant menu or look at the restaurant photos. So that would be the ideal path. And then what would be the next action? For them to see the restaurant reviews, and finally probably go ahead and either add to cart or probably go ahead and visit the restaurant. So this gives you a good idea of things. Now, another interesting part that you can also see, right, is the drop off part. So if you can see, once somebody has viewed a restaurant, you can see there's a 2% drop off. Now, maybe you need to figure out why these 2% have dropped off, and maybe you need to target them specifically. That can also be done. So at the end of the day, this comes in handy for product managers as well as marketers. Why? Let's say, for example, you've just updated your app. You've probably put in a new payment gateway, and you see a lot of failures in that particular section. Then you know there is something wrong at that particular section because there's a lot of drop off. And then you can probably take it back to your product team and figure out a way to solve that problem. That's basically paths. Now, along with paths, there is also the so this is the overview section. Now there is also something called as the top paths. Now, as you can see, this might be a little cluttered in terms of view, right? So what does top paths tell you? Top paths tell you which route, which path is actually giving you the most conversions, and you can also see the conversion percentage drop throughout. For example, if you can see, the top path here is restaurant view. You've got after that somebody goes to restaurant photos, then restaurant reviews, and others. If I go to the overview section, you can see that this particular section is what I am talking about here. Mhm. So that's basically it in terms of paths. I'll just quickly give you. So we also have our knowledge-based links that can help you figure out all these sections. But before that, I will also do another path with ending with. So I want to see how many people have done an app install in the last 30 days. Yeah, we'll just give it a second to load. While we're at it, let's just recap of what all is necessary in terms of paths. So what do we have to do to define a path? First is have an anchor event, choose the reference point from where the paths will begin or end with. Then what we have is a look ahead window. What is a look ahead window? It's basically the time within which you expect the users to do two consecutive actions. The next part is split. Basically, as I said, you can split it across platform, country, location, uh, and your custom attributes as well. Then you've got your option to exclude certain irrelevant events. Then you've got the option to include certain events and also collapse repeated events. We'll just go back to the previous path to see if it's ready. So since I said it's ending with, the path ends here. As you can see, it's app installed. Now, if you look at it, I've also split it by platform here. So platform 2 is Android, platform 3 is iOS. So as you can see, the drop-off percentage, people uninstalling the app from iOS is pretty less. So maybe this would not be your major focus area to begin with. There are 98% of your app installs that are coming from Android. So maybe you need to see where they're coming from. So if you look at it from an overall level, you can see that there is an app start, which means after basically coming on the app, they're not doing another action. So maybe you need to target users who have come onto your platform in the last 30 days so you can engage with them and prevent the app uninstall. That's one way to look at paths. Moving ahead to the third part, that is RFM. Now, what is RFM? Most of you might already know what it is. It's called recency, frequency, and monetary analysis. What this basically helps you with is to understand how recently, when was the most recent visit of a user who has come onto your website or platform app? What is the frequency with which they've come in the timeline that you've set? And what is their monetary value? This basically helps you understand how loyal is your customer. It understands if a user is about to churn. It gives you various different behavioral insights that you probably couldn't figure out earlier. Now, how do we go about in configuring an RFM chart on the WebEngage platform? As with every other feature, you've got the timeline that you can set. Again, you've got last 7 days, last 30 days, last 90 days. For ease, I'm just going to make it last 30 days. Then what do? You have the option to add a recency and frequency event. Now, what is this event? I'm going to add it as add to cart. So basically, I'm going to look at what is the most recent event that I'm going to look at? Add to cart. So when did the user add to cart on your website or app? And what is the monetary event? That is checkout completed. So it's basically, I'm looking at people who have added to cart and how many have gone on to do checkout completed. Now, once you set your event, what you also have is the option to aggregate by. So aggregate by is the attribute that captures the price at the end of the day. Now, this will be only available once you have configured revenue mapping and we have a value coming in as well. After that, once you click on the Analyze section, what you will have is the RFM chart that would be created with different groupings. So the different groupings could be new users, it could be users who are hibernating, it could be lost, it could be promising, it could it could be different groups that we go about. Now I will get into the definitions of each one, but before that I will just read what you will see once you click on this. For example, if you look at it, once we've done in the last 30 days, we've analyzed a set of 135,000 users who have done an add to cart event with recency and frequency and the monetary event checkout completed. Now, out of this, there are 81,000 new users. Now, in the new users section, you've got their individual recency, frequency, and monetary value. Mhm. So what is this definition of what you should see here? So in this group of new users, the time range in terms of their most recent visit is 0 to 19 days. Mhm. And the average user is about the 10th day, their most recent visit. Mhm. From the time the chart is for the timeline that we have put for last 30 days. Mhm. The frequency is how many times have they come ahead and done this particular event of add to cart. As you can see, it's for 81,000 users, right? So some of them have come added one product to cart. Some of them have also gone ahead and done it 27 times. The average user does it for about two products. Mhm. And then you can see the monetary value for this group of users itself. Mhm. So if you can see, the monetary value could be anywhere between up to 2,178. Mhm. And the average value for an average user would be 592. This is how you read what an RFM chart looks like on WebEngage. Now, once you're done with that, if you want to create a static list and target these users, you can go ahead and do that as well. Mhm. So once you click on this particular section, right, you can just click on save as static list. You can give it a particular name and save it, and it would be created by default on your segment section, which you can refer to here. Mhm. Moving ahead into the definitions of each of them. As I said, it's already available on the knowledge base. We can share those links with you, but I'll just go through each of them separately as well. So what does the total users analyzed say? It's basically once you've set a timeline and your conversion event and your recency and frequency event, how many users will this set include? That's total users analyzed. Mhm. The next section is new users. We're basically seeing acquired within the selected time frame and with moderate spends. So this is the definition of each bucket. For example, say what is a hibernating definition? It's people who have rarely performed the recency and frequency event. Their spends might be low, but they have also done a monetary event at some point. Mhm. Loss could be a set of users who have not performed your recency and frequency event. They're out of this section. Their spends are also low. So they might not be the ideal customers to target because they might not even come back again. Another way to look at it is they're lost. Maybe give them a discount code, maybe get them back to coming onto your website or app. Mhm. Similarly, you've got an about to sleep section, which means this group is just before the hibernating section. So users from this section would be moving into the hibernating section. So what does it mean? Probably engage with them here. So to prevent from them going into this and probably get them into your promising bucket or into your potential loyalist buckets. Mhm. Need attention is another bucket that's of utmost importance. It means they are slipping into your risk zone, which means you need to reach out with them definitely. Mhm. So that's basically RFM as well. I can share the knowledge base link again with you. The next part is funnels. Mhm. Funnels is an interesting section of the dashboard. So what does it basically do? I'll just click on edit. So it gives you an option. What does it do? You can put in your funnel name. You can choose different actions that the user must do and click on update the funnel. For example, in this particular funnel, what am I looking at? I'm looking at people who have added a particular product to cart, seeing if they've added more products. This is just a separate check that I've done. Then what I'm going to do is see how many people have actually started the checkout process and how many people have gone ahead and completed. This one I'm checking for first time checkout users, which means guys who are purchasing for the first time. So if you look at it, I've got around 193,000 users who have actually done this action, out of which only 9% have gone ahead and done the second action that I wanted them to do. And a further only 7% from that has gone ahead and completed started the checkout process. And finally, only 1% is doing my first checkout. So what does this mean? There are gaps that I need to plug in my engagement strategy. For example, if you just try to solve this gap, you're only targeting 3,000 users. Now, from my funnels, I know that there are 103,000 users who have actually added a product to cart. So maybe I need to see how I can solve this gap first. Now, once this gap is solved for, let's say, for example, from 100%, 50% goes on to add more products to their cart. What does it mean? Ideally, there would be a trickle down effect towards the lower sections of the funnel as well. So this is one way that we can slice and dice data and figure how to run our engagement strategy at an overall level. Uh, then probably your next focus area could be to see how many people have actually started the checkout process and basically see how why they haven't completed. So if you look at it, 14,000 users have started your checkout process, but only 3,000 at the end of the day went and converted. So maybe have like a discount code going out here, or maybe have like a personalized email campaign or an SMS campaign with the product they've added to cart, with probably more details in terms of price, and maybe even have some trust messaging out that says probably something along the lines of your product is the product that you've added to cart is going out of stock. We can pick all this data directly from the insight section on the dashboard, and you can add it in your engagement strategy as well. Another important thing that I wanted to mention about is also the completion time. So right now, what I'm doing is basically checking for users who have done your people who have completed the funnel from the step 1 to the step 4 in one particular day. Now, if I put it as 7-day attribution, this data would also change accordingly. Mm-hmm. You can also analyze the funnel at a deeper level in terms of weeks or days. Mm-hmm. So this would tell you how many users have actually entered this step on a day-to-day level. So as you can see, my timeline is for the last 30 days. You can break it down from a day-to-day level and see 14,000 users have entered step 1 on 14 December. That's around 12.5% entered step 2. You can also go ahead and change it from numbers and percentages as you want. And you can also see the average time the user takes to convert at the end of the day that you can see here. This would be at an individual day-to-day level. Mhm. That's basically it about the funnel section. Mhm. Now, moving on to the cohort side of things. Now, what is a cohort at the end of the day? Mhm. Cohorts basically help you identify your behavioral trends across your app and website. Now, what do I mean by that? Basically, I'm seeing the relation between two particular events. Now, in this particular cohort, for example, I'm seeing how many people have actually added an item to cart, and then how many people have started the checkout process at the end of the day. Mhm. So, what does this mean? I'm looking for people who have added to cart and how many people have gone ahead and started their checkout process. Now, this timeline I'm looking for is again last 7 days. I can split it across different time frames as well. Mhm. Now, in this section, as you can see all the users who are part of this cohort. And then you can see what is their value from day 0, day 1, day 2, up to day 7. Why? Because my timeline is for the last 7 days. Now, this is on a day-to-day level. Now, let me read this for you again. What happens is once the user has done an add to cart event, on day 0, 76.5% of the users actually go ahead and do the next action, that is start checkout. Mhm. On day 1, that is if I've added a product to cart, only 7% go ahead and do start my checkout process on day 1. On day 2, it becomes 5.8%. On day 3, it reduces further to 4.6. On day 4, it reduces to 3.5. On day 5, it's 1.7. And if I look at day 7, none of the users since this section basically come back to do the intended action. So what does this mean? Will have to engage with my users probably on the same day itself of adding to cart for them to go ahead and do a checkout completed. So I'm just figuring out at the end of the day how my engagement strategy should be. If you engage with on day 1, probably this number would increase. If you wait for a couple of days, then you'll be working on this particular number. Now, again, this is broken down on a day-to-day level. You can see what the numbers look like on 5th Jan, 6th Jan, 7th Jan. And so at an overall level, it's about 70% of the users do an action add to cart and then do the first start their checkout process on day 0 itself. On day 1, that further number reduces further, and you would probably have to start your engagement strategy here to get these users, to get these buckets to a larger level. Mhm. Uh, as I said, again, you can always customize your first event depending on all the custom events that you have. And you can also have any default event as well. So if you want to basically see how many users have done a session started and see what any event that they have done throughout, then you can do that as any event as well. You can also split it across the different options that we have. That is, again, location, technology, and the campaign IDs if necessary. You also have the option to download this report. And yeah, you can also pin it to your custom dashboard. Again, you can view data over days, weeks, months. You can view it as a line as well if you want. And also in terms of percentages or numbers. Mhm. So that's basically the cohort section. Then we've got the uninstalls. Mhm. This section basically is very similar to the user section of the dashboard. What it basically tells you is what is the uninstall trend, what is the overview in terms of the last 7, again, the timeline you can set across the different timeframes that you want. And you can see how many uninstalls have happened, which platform is it coming from, Android or iOS, what are the reachable users here. Basically, out of your total uninstalls, how many of them can be reachable on another particular channel. Mhm. And also the total installs during the same time frame. So if you look at it, you've got 38,000 installs in the last 7 days, 17,000 uninstalls. So essentially, your user base has grown by 20,000 in the last 7 days. Mhm. You also have the option to look at the different trends, that is total uninstalls, and see where your trend is. As you can see, your Android is the major driving factor. So if I remove that, you can look at it, it follows a major trend. And yeah, you can basically look at it from Android and iOS perspective as well. Then the next part of it will tell you what are the campaigns that are leading to the most uninstalls. So if you look at it, there are different campaigns. What will tell you is what are the type of campaigns. Is it one time or journey that is probably giving you the uninstall? What is the status of that campaign? How many messages were sent? What is the clicks? What is the conversions and the revenue and the uninstalls at the end of the day? So probably if it's a one-time campaign that's leading to the uninstall, maybe you need to figure out how you can probably move towards a more journey-oriented approach, because your one-time campaigns are leading to uninstalls at the end of the day. Mhm. Now you can also see install attribution for the uninstalled devices. That will tell you where the uninstalls, where the users are uninstalling from, and where did they download the app at the end of the day. Mhm. The next part is technology. So you've got like which Android version is probably leading to the most uninstall. Maybe that version is not an optimum one right now. Probably the device that is leading to the most uninstalls. You can probably remove iPhone from it, and then you can look which ones are the other devices. You can see mobile or tablet. As you can see, mobile is the major contributor here, and tablets are a small percentage of your users. Uh, yeah, and you've also, like I said, right, like how I configured paths, that section is also available here, where you look at what is the action that the users did before uninstalling the app at the end of the day. Mhm. The final section is the live part of the dashboard. This basically tells you what is happening on your website or app right now. What are the live stats? So there are around 6,000 sessions that are happening right now. That's across website, Android, and iOS. If you can see, a website is 0% because this particular client is not on the website. Since this is a test dashboard, some of the values might be on and off. The next thing is what percentage of those users are known and unknown, what percentage of those users are new and returning. Mhm. You can also see basically what are the session started event, or probably look at the impressions across different channels. Then you can also see the live interactions from the campaigns that you're sending out. So if you look at it, there are journey campaigns that are going out. These are the campaigns that you have set up one time, and it's probably running for a lifetime now. Mhm. So all of these stats also will be present in the live section of the dashboard. So yeah, guys, that's basically the analytics section of the dashboard. And yeah, I can take questions now. Okay.
Hey guys, any questions? So Vinod, does this answer your question, or do you have a follow-on question to this?
It answers my question. The following question would be like, how do I actually import the historic data in the system?
Sure. So basically, so with Shopify or whatever platform that you're using, there would be an option where you could download this list as a CSV file or an Excel file. That file would have to be cleaned up and created in a format which is recommended here once that's there. So your onboarding manager would help you with the process and the steps, etc. But largely, this is how you should be doing it. You can download that list of the users and then clean it up and upload it here. Similarly, for the events as well, you might have some of the events like checkout, etc. You might not have for add to cart and product view because I don't think Shopify tracks those by default. Uh, but for the checkout and order related events, you would have that data which you can then upload it here. So your onboarding manager should be able to guide you on this.
So Vinod, you can just you can just go to the data management section and basically look at upload user data and upload events data. Just ensure that the hygiene is checked before you upload, because otherwise you do not want wrong data coming onto your dashboard, right? That affects your campaigns at the end of the day.
Yeah.
Gotcha.
Yeah. So you can refer to this as well once. Cohorts with more example. Jesse, there's a request if you can show cohorts again and maybe take a couple of more examples as well around cohorts. And Mona, so by the way, we have a detailed session on cohort. So our VP Growth Ankur, he did done a session. This was with Inc 42 or Your Story something. We'll share that across today along with this recording. It's an hour-long session. But Jesse, if you can take another few minutes on cohorts.
Yeah, sure. Just give me a second. I'll just look at which a particular cohort. Let me think of something that I can do.
Yes.
Okay. For example, let's say I want to see how many users have done a session started event, and then if they've done any other particular action. Now, this is a pretty vague example. Let's look at it, and then I'll get into a detailed one as well. So I'm looking at it for the last 7 days. All right. So once this data populates, I'll just go ahead with the explaining. So what am I doing here? I am looking what a user has done, that is session started. So every time a user comes, the session started event is fired, right? Now, what is the return event? That basically means 43% of my users who have come onto my platform has done a second event on day 0 itself. Okay. On day 1, that percentage becomes 4%. Okay. What does this basically mean? All the users who have come onto my platform on day 0 has done another particular action as well. If I wait on day 1, that reduces by this much percentage. Now, what do I do with this data? Basically figure out how can I get the people to actually do an action from day 1. So probably you can send out a message to the user on day 1 and basically say, hey user, you've come to the platform. Okay. So basically what you can do is, hey user, you've come, you had come to the website. Did you not find what you were looking for? So that could be one of the engagement strategies that you can derive from this. Now, this is from a session started perspective. All right. Now, let me look at 2 consecutive events that will probably give you a little more insight. Let's say, for example, somebody who has added to cart and then done checkout completed. So if you look at it, people who have added to cart, only 11% of them actually go ahead and do a checkout completed on the same day. So that means you definitely have 89% of your user base that can be reached out to and basically optimize for your conversion rate at the end of the day. This is what insights that you could probably derive from cohorts. Muna, I hope I answered your question. Is it clear now?
Yeah. Yes, Jesse.
Okay, perfect. Any other questions, guys?
Hi, Jesse. This is Arul.
Yeah, Arul.
I have a question on this analytics and that is in uninstalls. There is any use case scenario for like websites? Is it only for applications?
Uninstall, basically we're tracking only for apps, right? Because at the end of the day, it has to be, it's an app that is installed or uninstalled, right? Website, you can always go and come. You don't need really install it, right? So another thing that you can probably do for website is probably see your last seen on the website and see if your user has exceeded more than 30 days since their last seen, probably target them. That could be one way to target your users who have gone inactive from the website side.
Got it. Thank you.
Anytime.
So hey Jesse, this RFM part, so these are custom events or predefined by the dashboard of WebEngage?
Which events are we talking about?
So hibernating, about to sleep, these are these custom parameters, or do we need to define a big?
No, you do not need to define them. It's already defined by us. It's already in our knowledge base. So these are definitions that we have only set. And this is the nomenclature that's followed across different industries and different benchmarks, basically to look at and read RFM at the end of the day. So I can always share this knowledge base with you.
So let's say if you want to change the hibernating part, so let's say your parameters and your definitions are saying, let's say a user is not using our app for let's say 7 days, but we want it to extend it to 14 days. So can we do that, or is it like very rigidly coded?
So the definitions on the platform here is rigidly coded, but what you can probably do is once you, so like I said, right, if you go to, just give me a second, let me just open that part again.
So two things, and before Jesse you go on, so two things, right? So RFM, basically this is based on the industry standard practices which are there. So we modeled it basis that, right? All of that. What you can also do is create your own custom segments. You can create a segment of users who are inactive for 14 days, 30 days, 90 days, right? That's the recommended practice for any web or app. If you have users, right, you create day 60, day 90, day 30 inactive users, and you can create different cohorts for that. So those are standard. This is more of a industry practice which is there. Yeah.
Okay, so like why I asked this question is because we are from finance field, and let's say the users, they have their salary credited in an account, and they'll probably use the app aggressively from 1st to 5th, and then their activity on the platform goes down. So if the system will push them into hibernating or about to sleep mode, we can't target them since they are the active user, because they get active only on 1st to 5th of every month.
So what you can do at the end of the day, right, is create this list and probably edit the conditions in under the segments tab that I had shown previously. So that way you will have clarity in terms of who you want to target. And once you create these live segments, it'll automatically get users based on their actions, right? If they have probably moved to an active segment, then they would probably not be a part of this segment as well. So yeah.
Okay.
So you'll probably have to create custom segments to go about it.
Okay. Yeah, that answers my question. Thanks.
Perfect. Any other questions, guys? Okay. I think, yeah, that's about it then from me. Thank you guys for the session. I hope you found it informative. And yeah, I think Nitya and Tina will get back to you with the further sessions.